This show is sponsored by Den 10 Insurance Services, helping businesses get the right insurance for all their insurance needs. Visit den10.io to get a quote. DENTEN.io. And remember, when you buy an insurance policy from Den 10, you're giving back on a global scale. Hello, all my entrepreneurs and business leaders, and welcome to the Michael Esposito Show, where I interview titans of industry in order to inform, educate, and inspire you to be great. My guest today has been a serial entrepreneur, and she previously started in the barcode industry. Soon, she bootstrapped her own special effects company for organizations like Peter Pan, Wicked, and of course, Pink, Taylor Swift, and many other Broadway shows. Today, she is the vice president of the Electric Vehicles Association and serves on the national board. As the CEO of EV Options, an experiential event company, she educates the EV curious about electric vehicle ownership. Please welcome serial entrepreneur, CEO, Terri Kirsch.
Thank you, Michael. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Welcome to the show. It's so cool to have you on today. I'm going to share with all of our guests how we got you here. So for everybody's knowledge, I want you to know that I flew her in from San Diego. No. So the truth is, this is so cool. It's so cool how these kinds of things happen. I was out in New Paltz with my daughter, so you know some of the story, but for everybody that's listening here, you may not know. So we're out in New Paltz. My daughters have their soccer games going on that day. So we have Denise and Tenley, who are 7 and 9 years old, and my wife is coaching both teams.
Both?
So both teams. And it was our first
fun.
game. It's our first game that weekend. And we're headed out there, and as we're driving out there, I see the Cybertruck. And I'm like, oh my goodness, Devin, that's my wife's name. I'm like, oh my goodness, Devin, I need to go there and see it. We're early. Can we stop in and see it? She's like, Michael, I got to get to the field. I got to get to the games. I want to make sure I'm set up and prepped. And I'm just like, Devin, seriously, like that truck's not going to be there all day. I'm never going to see it again. She's just like, look, if you drop me off, you can go back and see it. So I'm like, I'm not going to do that to her. So we get to the fields and I'm like, all right, it was pretty cool to just see it. And now we're on the fields. We play all of our games. It's about 2 hours of soccer because we have my first daughter's game, Tenley, and we had a second game for Denise. And as we're leaving, I see the Cybertruck again. I go, all right, come on, it's still here. So one little lesson for all of our husbands out there. Anything you say will always be, proven wrong by your wife when she said, it'll still be here in 2 hours. Well, so it was. And so we popped over, and I got to meet your fabulous Jonathan over here. I don't even know what Jonathan's hanging out in studio. He's not on mic, but Jonathan, what role do you serve?
I support with logistics and tech with Terri's wonderful EV options company.
So he serves as logistics and tech with the EV company, and I got to meet him, and I'm starting to ask him questions about the Cybertruck. He says, well, would you like to meet our CEO? I said, of course I would.
She's here.
So it was so cool to, of course, see this event take place in our community, to learn about electric vehicles, and then that you were there and so willing to meet and be so kind. Yeah, you got to meet my daughters.
Oh, I love the children in the EV space. They know more than the adults do. It's awesome.
And bring them in. And so you kind of stole the show from the Cybertruck because while I was there to see the Cybertruck, I became enamored in your story and being a serial entrepreneur, and I couldn't wait to have you on the show today. So I'm excited to learn more about all the different things that you've done.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you again for having me. My entrepreneurial days started out very early when wanting to own my own company from 12 years old. So it went on from there. And today I've retired 4 times. Keep coming back. Opportunities find me, and I can't say no because I love the work. I love working with people. I love leading, and I love success, and I very much love seeing the people that work for me succeed.
Tell me a little bit more about that 12-year-old girl who wanted to start a business, who had that entrepreneurial spirit.
I think it starts out watching others not be able to succeed or get things that they're wanting. So I just said there's got to be a better way, even at a very young age. So no matter what it was, if it was the selling the lemonade on the lemonade stand at the corner, I just had a different and a better way. I would always differentiate myself from the other little girl down the street. Give a little candy away with it, a little chocolate instead. So that seemed to get people to go to my stand than others. And that is a true story. So it started out there. And then again, when I would start working when I was 16 years old, I would always see things that the managers wouldn't see. And that continued on. And again, getting into the thought leadership. I know that's a buzz term right now, but it's really true to sort of see the vision, see how things are going to play out, and really how to succeed at that. And I think that's what I've always done is I always said there's got to be a better way or a better mousetrap. How do you make it different? So that started at a very early age for me.
Where do you think you learned that from?
I think I was just so independent when I was young. I had two older sisters, and they were always treated like twins. And then little me comes along, and so I just sort of was a survivor, and for no other reason other than I just wanted to do it better. It's kind of how it started, I think.
That's really cool. So you said 16 years old, you started working. Let's go jump over to the barcode business because that's the start of this entrepreneurial journey that you started. So tell us about the barcode business. What was it like getting into that? So we're talking about, you said the 80s to me? Or
it was early 90s.
Early 90s.
Right. I started there actually as a secretary back in the day doing Greg shorthand and wound up stepping in while one of the salespeople were on vacation or out sick. I don't really recall. And I said, let me just do his job while he's gone because I don't think he's doing a very good job. And I did very well. And increased what his business was the first month and wound up selling this printer because back in the day, that's when the military standard started using barcodes on everything, even like a little tiny screw nut widget. And so you have this dot matrix printer that's, 7 inches long. And then I actually discovered this printer that could print tiny little labels. So I just went and sold those to every military supplier to the government that I could find in Southern California. And no one else could make these tiny little bags with tiny little barcodes. So I just focused on that and I just sold those. And then not long after that, I thought, I don't need to work for somebody else. So I became a distributor. Did it on my own, but I didn't love it. I just didn't love it. So I thought, I'm going to let this go on as long as I can, but I'm going to do something fun. So that's when my children were in a production of Peter Pan. My son was 4, my daughter was 7, and I was backstage helping, and they were literally flying the kids with ropes and pulleys. I was one of the moms that helped in the back. I was the volunteer mom. I asked the guy, hey, who's your competition? Because they hired him to come in. And he says, well, we don't have anybody. And I said, this is America. Everybody has competition. Well, sure enough, they didn't. And so I started a company. And that's
the FX company, right?
ZFX. Yes. Yep. ZFX. Still in business now. I was with them for 21 years. And we started literally with $5,000 and 2 people. And when I left, they're doing really well right now still. But when I left, we had 49 employees and have flown people all over the world. And like I said, flying is through cables, harnesses, and ropes. So we had flown or have, again, left there about 10 years ago, but flew Hangover 3, the FIFA Championships in Bogota, Colombia, their halftime show. We flew the flag-raising ceremony at the Olympics. I mentioned Taylor Swift, Imagine Dragons, Pink, Zac Brown Band. We've kind of done it all and lots of Broadway productions. But the thing that is most fun to me was in that business was flying the young up-and-coming performers, the elementary schools, the middle schools, the high schools, the colleges, the passion that they have. And a little sidebar here, my son is now a director, and he has his own children's theater, and his first show was Peter Pan. So it's kind of all within the family.
Coming full circle. I got another little full circle for you. So I wasn't here at the time. We're currently recording in the Poughkeepsie studios at iHeart. But it's my understanding from you met Tina just a little while ago, and Lara, who is the one who got me the role to be able to do podcasts here, is the one who's shared the story with me. She was with iHeart for over 20 years, so she was here for a very long time. So I don't know where in her tenure this happened, but it was an up-and-coming Taylor Swift who actually came through these studios.
Oh, wow.
And she was promoting a show that I believe she was doing here in Poughkeepsie at either the Bardavon or the Civic Center over here. And so Lara, I remember telling us, and we're good family friends now, telling us a story. She said, I just remember this skinny little girl and blonde hair and coming in and, and everybody said she's going to be a star. So she met her on her rise. And that's kind of cool that you were one of the people that has held her up.
And that's true, literally held her up.
Yeah.
Because I saw her the first time at 16 years old. I saw that
So that's
lanky
around
little
the
thing
same,
as well. And to see her develop, because like I said, every concert she did, we did a little something for her for the flying effects. And so I watched her grow up, and it was like one of my children. So even though I don't have a friendship with her per se,
Sure.
I certainly feel connected.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool.
It is. It's really cool. And I mean, just staying on Taylor for a moment here, because right now, I have 2 young daughters.
Yes.
You could only imagine. I pretty much know all of her songs.
Yes.
We have she just had her album just came out, and it came out on my daughter's birthday. It came out on Tenley's birthday, April 19th. So Tenley feels
That's so
so
cute.
special.
Right.
She has been telling her sister Denise, I don't know about what's special about your birthday.
By mine, yeah.
But Taylor dropped an album on my birthday.
A second, 2 even actually, right? She dropped the second one immediately after that. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
Oh
know
yeah,
that.
you have to look that up.
Oh.
Right, immediately. I think 16 more songs or something.
Oh my goodness! So I'll have to tell her that. But so we also have my wife then purchased the CD because we don't have a Cybertruck, which we're going to talk about soon. We have an older model, a 2016, and so we have to load the CDs in to go into the on dash board. But we got the CD, and my daughters were looking at they received it.
Like,
go,
what is this?
That's exactly what happened. And it was so funny because we thought that we were giving them this gift. We were like, here's Taylor's CD.
Right.
And they kind of looked at us like, I mean, we've been playing it on Amazon for the past
what is this?
Music for the past 3 days. Like, what are you doing to mom and dad?
Oh, that's cute.
It's so cool. So the other thing that we've gotten to see, which is where I'm getting into your FX company here, is Taylor launched her movie of her entire show.
Right.
So you really see what you're kind of talking about. I don't think she flies in that one there.
No, she has other lift effects.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, and to keeping in mind, they have to have loading in and loading out. It's got to be done quickly. I mean, they have to actually rent the stadium, ahead of time, and so all that's very expensive.
And that's actually exactly where I was going with this question is, so watching these performers get lifted. I mean, I'm thinking about the halftime show. I think Rihanna was lifted up through these different cords and everything, but you're using harnesses.
Well, it's the same type of thing.
Same type of thing.
Yeah, where there's hoists, and oftentimes they're automated with, actually motors and whatnot, motorized hoists. And I don't really know what she had done, but the different effects are just a single pick point and the double pick point with the 360 swivel. And depending on how they want to do it, whether somebody is 360 going around, you need 3 pick points. And so when you get that, like I said, the Hangover 3 movie or the halftime shows, you can imagine how large these hoists have to be from one end of the stadium to the other. And even going down that drag down in Las Vegas when on Hangover 3, the man landed with the parachute in the limousine. That was us. And that was a long hoist, a half a mile from one point to the other, just to have him follow along to gently drop him into that limousine. That's what they do, depending on how they want it, how the effect wants to go.
Where all of this is kind of going for me in my mind of questioning is, you started behind the curtain at a kids show, and you got ropes and pulleys. And we are moving into what you just beautifully described in The Hangover of this half a mile cord and all this other stuff. The mindset that you have to have in order to move from, just holding a rope to, and I'm hoping you can get into some of the planning, to planning for this huge event. What is that mindset like? What are some of the things that go through your mind, and how do you quell the nerves?
That's actually a really good question, because I work best under pressure. I rarely get stressed. We actually have an event this weekend, and we got a call last night that one of the people can't be there. We're like, be there meaning a big element of it. So I'm like, it's okay. We'll pivot. We just have to do that. I'm used to that. But I do work best under pressure. But I think that the common thing in all of these businesses that I've had, because whether you're flying people, EVs, barcodes, potato chips, you still have to have the customer service in mind. You have to have the vision of where you want to go and how you're going to get there. For me, too, you have to be a risk taker. If you are ultra conservative as an entrepreneur, you're just not going to make it. Now, that's my opinion. But my risk level is, can you survive if it fails? Can you recover? If you can recover from your risk, take it. Do not hesitate. But if you can't, and you have to really think hard on that. But for me, to calm the nerves, as you mentioned, it's really just a matter of planning, making sure you delegate, and training the folks to always be bringing problems ahead. So if you're running into an obstacle, you need to know immediately. Bring it up, expose it. Don't wait till the very end, because you can typically always fix those things. Once the curtain goes up, and I mean literally, what we do at the events that you were at, the curtain goes up. The start time happens. On stage, the curtain goes up. When that happens, you have to be prepared. You can't make up more time. So that's where all the planning and the preparation needs to be done. Delegating, proper training, proper procedures, documentation, doing live scenarios, playing it out. Okay, what's going to happen when we get there? What if this doesn't happen? How will we recover from that? So it's all about the planning ahead of time. And that can be nerve-wracking for some folks. So again, documentation, writing lists. But the big thing for me is including my staff in what those decisions are, because they have to take ownership. If they take ownership of what they're having to do, then they will succeed. And when you do that, they feel relevant and wanted and needed, and they want to succeed for you as an owner. It's not a personal thing. It's a family thing. And to me, that's really important. And that's where we succeed.
I want to just talk about the planning. And I love everything you just said, because it really goes into that leadership track of the different values and thoughts on what a leader is. There's a couple things that you said. One that I'm curious about, which has to do with risk. And then the other one, of course, I want to know about planning. So I think planning is going to be the easiest one, because that's kind of like it's more of a curiosity thing. So in terms of like one of these big events, like let's use the Hangover one. So we're talking about the movie, The Hangover 3, and you have a scene where you have this half-a-mile court and parachuting down into a car and all this stuff. I'm assuming that it's kind of like very similar as like a halftime show and all the rest of like setup and all that stuff. What's the time frame of planning for an event like this?
That's also a good question. Something like that was highly sophisticated because they were very powerful, high-speed hoists. But something like that depends on whether we were building it or whether we were renting it. But the logistics for that, it's about a 6-month process.
That's what I was thinking.
However, in the movie business, they can call you on a Friday and say, "Can you be here on Tuesday?" And at that point, you have to decide if it's worth it. If the risk is worth it. And trust me, I am not one that likes to say no. I do not like to say no. So, in fact, I've been accused of, you have to say no once in a while. No, you guys can do it. I have faith. And most of the time, people deliver when you give them bring that challenge forward. But to do it properly, it's about a 3 to 6 month plan.
Right.
But you don't always have that, especially too because there's permits that have to be pulled when you're going to be doing an effect like that. The insurance has to be handled.
Right.
You have to do testing, and you have to get the stunt doubles because the celebrities aren't available till the very last second. They walk in, do the gig, and they're gone.
On you to do all of that?
No, it will. We work closely. We worked closely with their managers, their agents, the producers, the directors on how that will all happen.
So if the studio says we need it done in 2 days, they're doing all that stuff. You just got to figure out the price and the cable.
And sometimes sometimes the performer says, I want to fly in like a parachute. And they go, "You want to do what?" And they go, "Okay, make the calls, see what you can find." So yeah, that's when we would get the last minute things. We did a lot of passion plays for churches at Easter and Christmas, flying, Jesus and the Rise and all that. And that you can plan years in advance,
Yeah.
right? And so that takes a lot of planning as well, and a lot of rehearsals, but nothing like what you do in the movies, or, in the film industry, because again, sometimes they're last minute. So
And like you said, with the stadium, you're renting the stadium, and you got to figure out where to put all these things. So I was just thinking about that from a logistical standpoint. I was like, how do you figure all this out? It's wild. So I've done a few theater shows. I've acted in a few theater shows,
Oh,
and
okay,
then
cool.
I've also hosted our own, which is called the Take Action events that we've
Nice.
had. And they're really simple. They're like panels, like the
Right.
Take Action event. So
Yeah.
the acting part, it was, setting up some stage stuff, and I
Right.
was just an actor in it, so I just got to perform in it. But I got to see
But you see-
what goes
right.
into
You
production.
see the back end.
Exactly.
Yeah, behind
and then
the
when I
scenes.
put on my shows of the Take Action events, this was my show, and I was working with Katie Haynes, who does all of my marketing. I was working with her on setting up the show, and then Uncle Mike, who's actually right next door here, helped produce the show and everything. And we worked on putting this whole thing together. And we're talking about a 6-foot table, 3 chairs, and myself and a
Right.
couple mics.
Right.
And seeing the production that goes just into that, that's where my curiosity came from, because I'm like, that took 2 weeks, 3 weeks of planning of
Yeah.
like where the seats are going to be, because the theater would constantly change on us.
Right.
Even though I rented this theater for 6 months, they said, you're going to take it as is. And it's a black box theater here in New Paltz.
Okay.
And they have a different show every month.
Right.
So they change the seating from surrounding the stage, or for stadium style, or other way. Like, one of them was really cool.
No, I totally, you're totally right. You don't know what you're going to walk into and what you have to fix that someone else left behind.
Yep.
And sometimes you share the space where you have evenings and someone else uses during the day.
Yeah,
That's
well,
a hot mess.
Right, like a Staples Center, for instance,
yeah,
right, where you
yeah,
might
yeah.
have a game
Exactly.
in the evening.
Right.
And I'll just say the really cool one with the Take Action event was they actually had a mural, not a mural, but I can't think of the word. But the whole floor was painted.
Oh, cool.
It was
Yeah.
so cool, except
Yeah.
all of us had to take our shoes off. So I had all these professionals coming in, and I'm like, you can't walk over here unless you take your shoes off.
Yeah.
And like one of them,
They're looking at you like, what?
one of them, Cecile, who is she was Miss Philippines.
Oh.
So she's this beautiful Filipino woman, and she was decked out for this event. She was one of my panelists, and she had these beautiful shoes, and I'm like, Cecile, you
can
gotta
carry 'em.
You gotta take those off.
But you can carry them. Oh,
was-
no.
It was one of those things. But
That's
anyway,
funny.
so that was part of piquing my curiosity.
Yeah.
In terms of the leadership side, so it's interesting with something that you said that kind of really caught me is about risk. And I'm with you, right? Like, we as entrepreneurs, it's a game of risk. And I remember my uncle, who's one of my mentors, always said, like, don't, like kind of what you just said, don't put in more, don't bet more than you have.
Right. Exactly.
But we also know that sometimes as entrepreneurs, we take risks and we don't know
Right.
that we might be overstepping what we have.
Right.
And so one of the ideas that we hear a lot today, and it's, this year was like, what's your word of the year? And for me, it was resilience, of always being able to overcome a challenge. And you mentioned that there are some challenges that you might not be able to overcome, or maybe seeing a risk that you might not be able to overcome. I'm curious on what that means for you, or where you see that kind of taking place.
I think for me, it's changed as I age. I think that's with everything, right? Everything changes as you age. I can recover a lot faster now. But there were times where my husband and I would be, should I do this? Should I start this new company? He was always the working man, and I was always the one that says, we got to do this. Got to take
We
that
got to have
risk.
that balance. My
Did
wife
that?
Is a teacher.
Is that so? Yeah, so that's awesome. And so he would do this, and I would say, okay, you're going to carry me for 5 years because I'm not sure if we can make any money. So we just kind of balanced it that way. We didn't always have the answers. And there were times but we were younger, where we could still recover. And so it was really whether or not the risk and the payout was there. And it was like a work-life balance. I wanted to be home with my kids. So I wanted to be able to work out of the house, which back then virtual wasn't a thing. It was just, you're working out of your house. Now it's
Right.
called virtual, air quote. And so I did that. I've always worked out of my home so that I could be there for the kids, and I could be there at their soccer games, and I could be the team mom on my son's football team, and the PTA president, and I did all that.
Yeah.
And so that to me is where that came from, as far as how much risk do you take. And I even went as far as saying, listen, if this bombs, can I take a mortgage out on the house? What can I do and how far? And we've done that. We did that where we weren't doing so hot. But you know what? It was a never give up. It was this has to work. And so what can I do? What have I not done right that could get us farther? And I go back and reflect. To go back and reflect and say, well, if I had done it this way, okay, I won't do that again. And so to go back and learn, and that's part of it too, is to reflect on what you've done, what succeeded, what didn't. Don't do that again, or do more of that. So
Right. And so I'm glad you clarified that, because the message that you're giving is not to give up. It's to reflect on what went wrong.
Yeah, evaluate
what did you
it.
learn from it?
Yep.
And then maybe you do pivot. Maybe you go in a different direction, but what do you take from that experience? I really appreciate you sharing that. The other thing that I want to ask you about is company culture. We still haven't even talked about EV options quite yet, but I'm assuming you're carrying it over because you just mentioned it before with the FX company about open communications. And so that to me speaks to company culture, is that you're creating a culture where your employees, your team members feel comfortable enough to say to you, something is wrong and we can't go forward, we can't go on right now, we have to pause, we have to stop, whatever it is, especially when we're talking about flying people.
Right.
How do you create that culture to where you have people that are able to bring that to, let's call it the air quotes, boss?
Gosh, back early 20s, I think it was, I had taken a course just to talk about people. And they had done a survey. It's probably been done 100 times, if not more since then, about what's important to people. And oddly enough, of the stack rank, these 10 things, the least important was money. The top 3 was being in the know, being appreciated, and being trusted. And I never forgot that. I don't even know what the other ones were. It doesn't really matter. But to me, it was about money. I've had people tell me, I want a raise. I need more money. I need a raise. And I bring them in to the office. I say, this isn't about money. What's really going on? Please tell me. Well, that guy got a title. He's got a title. He's senior, whatever. And I say, this is about that because you deserve that too. And I'm really glad you told me. Had nothing to do with money at all. It had to do with the fact that he didn't feel appreciated and I didn't recognize that. But the fact that I thought to ask him and really act like really cared, because I did. I really did care what they felt, but I just knew it had nothing to do with the money. But that's kind of where people go. And you have to be able to acknowledge and recognize that. But for me, the culture is really important because it's about building family. Again, people can be managers and not lead, but to be a leader, you don't have to manage. And it's really, I look at the fact that I work for my employees. How do I educate you and move your success forward by just knocking down obstacles for you? Because I don't hire people for me to do their job. I hire people to do a job for me. But if they don't have the right tools and skills and confidence and success mentality, then I might as well just hire new people because I'm going to be doing their jobs for them. Or I'm going to be correcting the job they did wrong.
Tell me more about the success mentality.
It just happened this morning where I told one of my people, listen, I don't want to have to ask you for this. I'm giving you the responsibility and to make the decision. So you do it. And here are your tools. You make the call. Because I knew whatever decision he made, of course, led him slightly, was going to be okay. Yeah. But I let him make the call on that. At the end of the day, after it was over, it's when I went, maybe I shouldn't have told him that. But guess what? I've always felt that if my staff or my employees make a decision on my behalf, because either I'm not there or I coach them wrong, it's my responsibility. And I have to take those, take it on the chops as well. And we'll bounce. We'll recover. We'll pivot. Nothing is that bad of a deal that you can't fix it. I mean, think about it. I was the one that got the call at 11 o'clock at night if there was a problem on stage on Wicked. They'd be calling me, saying, we got this issue. And I'm like, oh, no. So, yeah, I had to be able to handle all of that. So,
And there's a lot of trust that goes into it. I asked that question about what you just said, the success mentality. It's interesting. That's actually one of the first times I've heard that term. So I'll coin it as yours. It's a term.
You bet.
It's a new Terri term.
Yay.
And so I was coaching an individual this morning in sales. And it's a very unique opportunity to be working with this individual. He is actually just graduating college in May
Very
11th.
nice.
I'm very, very happy for him. And he and I met through Toastmasters. But he is working on starting his own company. And so he reached out to me for coaching, and I'm just making a long story short, but just want to give some context here. Reached out to me for coaching, and there was an affordability issue, but we decided that we would do some sort of a barter. And he wants to learn sales and gain sales experience. So I said, okay, cool. I'll coach you in sales on my product and what I do at Michael Esposito Inc. and my services. And then, when you graduate and when it's time for you to run your business, we can talk about what that looks like then. But for now, I'll give you the coaching and you'll sell my product, right? So we have this nice little agreement. And the reason why that context is important is because in our coaching this morning, some of the things that we're going into today was more specific about his outreach and about starting to reach out, because we've been doing this now for several weeks. And he kind of was a little, concerned about the outreach, about what should I say to people, or how do I say, or how do you want me to respond? And his name is Kelvin. And I said, Kelvin, this whole time that we've been working in sales, or I've been teaching you sales, I haven't even been teaching you sales. I've really been teaching you a mindset.
yeah.
And the reason why I'm ready for you to start reaching out to my prospect list is because you're in the right mindset.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And it was because I don't want you to be Michael. I want you to be Kelvin. But what are we doing? So it's one of the things that we did together, one of the exercises we did together was we went to people's LinkedIn. So all of the prospects that we tagged as these are the right prospects for my organization, we went to their LinkedIn profile. And what do they say in it? And so simply put, if their profile doesn't say anything about growth or employee development or team development or inspirational or anything of that nature, and it's simply just very cut and dry, they might not be a good fit. We don't know that yet, but we just know that they might not be a good fit.
Right.
If they say things of talent development and growth, and we're looking to grow a team and inspire our employees and support our employees, well, they're a great fit. Reason why I bring that up is that started helping him realize who are the right prospects and how do I speak to them.
Right, right.
I didn't even have to tell him what our product is anymore, because he knows what our product is. It's inspirational, it's growth, it's development, it's talent development. And so from there, I said to him, Kelvin, today, I said, you could start responding to people because I trust what you're going to say to them.
Right.
And so that's why I asked about the success mindset. And because it was when you said it, I said, that's what Kelvin and I were talking about today.
Good.
It's the
That's
success mindset. It's this mindset of positivity and constant growth and development, not just for the people that we're prospecting, but for him as the employee.
Right.
So that was pretty neat.
And I do find too, it seems like you have this as well. They really want you to be proud of them. I don't care how old or young they are. If they see how you behave and how you are and the responses you get from customers, they want to do that. And you're the first person they want to tell when they get a win. So it's not the thrill of the kill. It's not that. It's really more, look at how I succeeded and look at what I did. Be proud of me. And for them to be proud of themselves too. So
that's it. Yeah. And that's I said to him, I said, I don't want you to do it for me.
Right.
But I know that that's going to be a part of it. I want you to do it for you. But you're 100. We want to share our wins.
Yes.
We want to share our wins with someone, and especially when we have a mentor. I reach out to my mentors all the time, and there's a woman, Linda Grace Farley. She was my mentor at Toastmasters. She helped me so much to find my authentic voice as a speaker. And when I got my first keynote, she was one of the first people. I mean, she moved to Florida. We speak sporadically, but she was one of the first people that I was like, Linda, we did it.
That's so good. That's beautiful. But Kelvin will remember that for the rest of his life. It's amazing. People learn by example. And that's why when I do see some people that just aren't very successful and they just don't do a great job, and you look back at the people that they've surrounded themselves by, they don't have anybody to learn from. And book learning and going to school, all that's great. But you really do learn by example. I remember people back in my early days when I would go, on a sales call or a meeting with them, they'd say things and the people would respond. I'd go, I'm going to remember that. Yeah. because they responded and it made everybody feel good. And they either never said it again, they didn't realize what they did, or they didn't realize how effective what they said was to that person. But I think that's really important, is how do you affect others, by what you say, your positive attitude, the team player. I know for me, my prospects are prospects and I'm a vendor until we do a contract. Then we're a partner. And that's how I treat them, and that's how they treat me.
And by just changing that language also changes the whole dynamic.
Yeah. And I say to them a lot, when they say, what do you think? I go, well, if it was my money, this is what I'd do. Because it's true. I will get business somewhere else. I'm not going to oversell somebody. But I do say to them, if this was my money, I'd handle it this way. And I think it makes them feel comfortable. Okay, great. Then we'll do that. I'm like, okay, good.
Comfortable. So in part of this, we've been talking the open dialogue, the communication, and the culture. And in all of this, something that many leaders struggle with, you call them any type of leader, manager, leader, anybody who has a team or has people that they're trying to inspire or help move towards a goal, it has to do with delegation. And you mentioned delegation. And so I'm curious on your maybe 3 little tips on how you're able to delegate to a team. And you already mentioned it a little bit in the story that you just shared about the individual this morning. But what are some other things that a leader today can look at as to being able to relinquish some control and give ownership to their employees?
It's a tough one, especially too, always being a serial entrepreneur myself and knowing what successes I've had. If I delegate something and they're not going down the direction that I know, again, that gets into what bad thing will happen if they don't do it this way. And that's kind of where I take it. So, and if they don't, if I see them going down in the wrong direction, I will guide them and say, let me explain to you why that won't work. So it won't necessarily be do it this way, but explain to them why that way won't work. And then when I do that, they say, oh, I see what you mean. And it has to click or it won't stick.
And that goes to that success mindset.
And they're going to do the same mistake again, and they won't feel proud. So it's like children. If you give them the opportunity, they'll succeed, but you just have to give them the coaching in the right direction. So delegating is a really tough thing, especially to I've been doing this for so long that I know what the email should say to give responses. And when I read an email someone else write, I go, oh, swing and a miss. But that's okay. You know what? Nothing bad's going to happen, and they're still learning as well. And I do that a lot. What bad thing will happen if I don't correct this? So but I always have to be teaching. It's not just for my benefit for my company. It's for their future success. What good do I do as a leader if I don't help them develop for their future? And so I have to do that for the good of my company, for the good of them as a person. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. So what I heard there is there's the risk management again. As an entrepreneur, we're constantly managing risk, and we're looking at a risk and we're saying, if it's a risk that's not worth taking, now maybe you're going to take it on and maybe hold their hand more. But I also like the word guide. What is a guide? A guide, I think of a river guide. Have you ever whitewater raft?
Yeah, a lot.
And a river guide, there's 6 people.
We're all paddling, but they're back there.
That's right. There's 6 people paddling, and I've done the Gauley in West Virginia. I don't know which is I think the 5th or the 7th in the world of like most challenging rivers. And so those Gauley guides, they are very they're up there in top trained.
Right.
But they'll let you run the raft. And then there's moments, and I remember 2 specific moments. One of them where there's a 5-foot drop and where you heard her voice, where she was like,
no, she was in charge.
your paddle is not doing anything unless I tell you what it is.
Right.
And so there's that risk management.
Right.
It's like, hey, look, we're going along, and this is, we're hitting some pretty decent, class 2s, class 3s, 4s even. And she's not saying much. She's just doing her little adjustments, the guiding like you did.
Right.
But when we went to that 5-foot drop, I remember you heard her voice, and it was paddles in, and that was it. She's got it.
That kind of gives me chills. That's way cool. I did that. I whitewater rafted in Alaska at the spring runoff. And it was, some of them were unrunnable 5s. And I'm thinking, I want to go over there. They're like, you're not going over there. We're staying over here. So it's the same kind of thing. I totally get. I totally get what you mean.
But I love that. So I love how you really helped us really understand that. And the other part that I love, which is a great segue into your organization today, is you said you're always teaching. And I think that that's another important attribute for leaders, is to be a teacher, to be someone who is has individuals, and as you said, to where you're helping them succeed to get further in their careers.
Right.
And how can we do that if we're always telling them what to do? We have to trust them and teach them.
Right.
So I love that. And so why this is such a great segue into your organization is because your organization educates people who are curious on electric vehicles. And that's what I witnessed when I got to go to your event just
good.
just because of a soccer game.
Then it worked.
It worked. It worked. But you had all of these different people who were ready to share what it is, how it is, and be able to test drive these vehicles. So I'd love if maybe you could start sharing a little bit about this organization, about EV options. What was the spark for you on starting it, and take it from there for us?
Well, I became involved in the electric vehicle. This is kind of a funny story. Business, because I was at lunch one day and I had a friend that was in the business and had an EV or two and did some things. And I thought, I think I'm going to buy a Tesla. And so literally it was on my phone at lunch because back then, this was, 2017. And I'm just looking on the app and I'm thinking, oh yeah, I'll buy this one. And then I'll just cancel it if I don't want it. And you can't cancel. And so I'm like, I just bought a Tesla, literally at lunch. And I'm like, yeah, okay. Again, risk. I did it. I made a mistake because I didn't know what I was doing. Who buys a car on an app in 2017? You go to a dealer, right? But now I owned a Tesla. Like, okay, all right, I'll go with it. I'm going to go with this. And I did. And then I just fell in love with the technology, the fact that it's, saving our environment. I have grandchildren. I suffered from asthma my whole life, and that's the number one cause of asthmatics is, our air that we breathe. Yeah. And so when I did that, I was in. I started doing some work in the business and became part of the Electric Vehicle Association. Started as somebody talked me into being secretary, and I hate that. I'm not great in finance, but I'll do it. And so then we did that, then was secretary, and now I'm vice president. And so my business partner, Elaine, and I, she's the president, I'm the vice president, and we're both partners in EV Options. So I started doing that and really realized, and I've seen the ebbs and flows. It's kind of neat, meaning that it's all in for electric. Everybody drive. We have to educate. Then COVID hits. Then everybody shifts to infrastructure because nobody could drive. So now we have to get the grid ready. We have to be able to install chargers. And I said to myself, we have to do both because you're going to have crickets chirping at the charging stations if we aren't educating people on how to own these cars. You got to have both. But, COVID put a damper on everything, right? Our whole lives changed. But then it started opening up a little bit, gave us an opportunity to start doing these events and educate folks with masks on, making sure we had COVID tests on site. Would the owners be okay to sit right seat? Because that's our model.
Tell us about the model.
The model is, it's to work with owners to sit right seat because you can go into a dealership and there are avenue to get these cars on most levels. Some you can buy them online, but they don't necessarily know everything about EVs. Sometimes it's a revolving door. There's a lot of salespeople that come in and out. Other times they have to sell the model that makes them the money. They have their livelihood is to make money. So if they can sell the gas car that's on the lot, and if they have no EVs, they're going to talk you out of the electric vehicle. So our goal is to bring owners there and just say, yeah, it was tough. I got down to about 15% range. I was really nervous, but I was able to plan. Or how long does it take? What's the mind shift? How do you change your mindset on driving? And so we did that with the owners in the right seat, and we pay them. I get paid, they get paid. Everybody should get paid. We don't ask for volunteers. It's really we need the most professional people because we are working with professional organizations. Our primary business, actually only business, I shouldn't say that, primary, are utilities. They hire us to work with their communities, public facing and employees and fleet. So they want us to come in and educate. They're an electric company. They have the most to gain, if you think about it. Yeah. Right? They get the money, but they also have responsibilities. And so they bring us in to do that education because they just don't have the tools. They don't have the people. We do this in our sleep. We can literally bring up an event and stand it up in a matter of a couple of hours. And they walk in and they go, wow, this is an event. Because it's an event. It's not just bring cars and drive. There's a lot to it.
It's an event now.
As you saw. So yeah, we want to work with the dealers, the automakers, and the manufacturers, the OEMs. They really, we're a blip, on what they need done. If they only knew how many cars we sold for them, we get no commission, we get no mention, whether it be the profit or the nonprofit EV Options or Electric Vehicle Association, no love. We can actually have an event because we take reservations and appointments for drive times. We can actually have 90 appointments for BMW and they just won't come. So we have to take it off the list or source our own. So we are out there doing the good fight without support of that.
I'm curious in what the good fight is, because you have a business and you're essentially selling cars for these automakers and not getting a commission. We understand the structure is that it's the utility companies that pay for the event and for you to be there. So what is the good fight? What is the mission of the organization? And you mentioned it before, educate people on EVs.
The underlying mission is to have clean air. But the reality is, how do we make that happen? Which to me, my task, if you will, is to make sure that when you walk into that dealership, you can stand on your own 2 feet. And when they try to say you can't charge at home, you can. And for them to say, well, we don't have any of those vehicles, when there's 3 on the back lot, for you to stand on your own 2 feet and say, then I'll wait. Or I will find out the answer somewhere else. So that you don't go, okay, great, I'll buy a...
Be convinced otherwise.
Yeah. So the goal is that.
Empowering
for you to become your own advocate. And so you know what the right answers are. So when they say you can't charge at home, you can go, yeah, you can. You can charge 110, level 1, 2, and 3, 110, 220, DC fast charger. You can't do that at home. But yeah.
The other thing I noticed at the event, and it's only because I really glanced at it, so, correct my ignorance, where you had different models and you had their prices. Was that because they were for sale, or was it just showing their different price points?
I never thought about that, but that's a good question. People want to drive kind of what's in their price point. It's kind of funny.
That makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of, and also their range.
Right.
There is...
outside of the Cybertruck, I mean, everybody wants to drive.
I know, right? It is worth driving. It's so cool. But the misconception is that you need to have 500-mile range. I don't know anybody that's going to drive 500 miles in a gas car, much less. So one of my first EVs, I had 235-mile range, and I never once felt that was a problem. It was a mindset change, just like going from a home phone on the wall to a cell phone. I can't go, hey, honey, pick up the phone downstairs. You got to hang up and call them. So it's a whole different mindset.
Right.
And so for the vehicles, they need to know what that range is. And some people are hung up on that. And it's a hang up. We can't change everybody's mind. So we list the range. So how far can these cars go? People go, oh, yeah, 300 miles, I can do that. When they probably would never drive 300 miles without stopping.
That's what we get out of a gas car.
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah. And also, too, it kind of is an interesting paradigm shift when you're going, 400 miles in a day to stop every hour and a half to charge for 10 minutes. Because you can get 200 miles in 10 minutes. And then you just keep on going. Because the middle of the battery is what charges the fastest. Because it slows down, it's like a fire hose and a water spigot. You need to slow it down for battery health when you get up to the top end. So just charge right in the middle for 15 or 20 minutes. Sometimes the car says stop for 5 minutes and be on your way. I'm like, I'm not going to stop for 5 minutes. But thank you, car. So there's that. And then the price point we do for people to say, I want to stay within my price range.
Understood.
But I will tell you, we do a lot of disadvantaged communities. And I bring the fancy cars because they may never, ever get a chance to drive those cars again. And it helps them aspire. And so I like bringing the Cybertruck to a community that would never buy one.
Right.
Get in there and drive that car.
Yeah.
And they are just tickle pink. It's a great feeling for me to do that.
That's so cool.
So.
How did you get your hands on a Cybertruck? Did you get it early, or did you?
Well, I was at the reveal in 2019.
The one when he threw the ball at it?
Oh, I was there.
Oh, my goodness.
The steel ball.
Of course you were there. That makes sense.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
So Elaine and I were both there, and I literally ordered 4 of them that night. Don't know why. There's the risk side. I say ordered. I placed a reservation.
Right.
4 of them, and I had to open up a second account because it would let you do 2. So I opened up a second account, sort of slid under the radar
There
there.
you go, yeah.
And I ordered the 4 and then just let it sit. It was $100 a piece, so $400. Who cares? So did that and just waited. And life went on. COVID hit. I mean, all kinds of things happened. And then December 8th, I got the email that said, your Cybertruck's ready. I had kind of forgotten what I had done. Cybertruck, singular. And I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, first thing you do is you order it now. You have to order it because the reservation's there. $250. Did that. And then I just was super excited. And I go, wait, I have another email here. What is that? Oh, they're telling me to order my Cybertruck. And I went, wait a minute. Was it a different email? And I realized it was for another reservation. So I put the $250 on that. And so now I have 2 reservations. And I'm just, again, waiting. I'm not sure the date. I should know this. I think January 16th. I was actually working the Buffalo Auto Show, whenever that was, maybe the end of February, middle of February. And they called me and said, your Cybertruck is ready for next week. And I was like, oh my gosh, Elaine, the Cybertruck's ready. Should I buy it? Because at that point, now you have to say, I got to figure out how I'm paying for this thing.
Right.
And so she goes, oh my gosh, yeah. Well, 5 minutes later, the phone rings again. And it's Tesla. And they said, we noticed you have a second Cybertruck here. And I was like, I'm busted. There's no way. I'm totally busted. They figured it out. And they go, well, do you want it? Because we can let you have the second one next week. I'm like, yes. So that's how. And in fact, every place we go that like any Tesla service center, how did you get 2? I said, through the luck of the draw. So yeah, that's kind of how. And being
able to afford them, is it the businesses or is it yours personally?
Well, what's the difference, right?
Okay, all right. Okay.
Right. We're an LLC, and so
yes,
honestly, because it qualifies as a commercial vehicle, we get 100% write-off for the depreciation for the first year.
And that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's funny. A friend of mine, he also put the deposit down. So this is like a luck of the draw, right? Because he put a deposit down, and I texted him. I said, hey, the Cybertruck's going to be in Poughkeepsie tomorrow. He's just like, good. Tell her to come by my house. I still haven't gotten mine yet.
Yeah,
so
I'll take hers.
He's so jealous.
I don't really know. It seems like most of them are going to Texas, Austin, where they're made, and California, because I saw a list of all the VIN numbers. But they're showing up randomly in certain places. But because I know people, like I said, I was number 4 and 5 in San Diego. And I don't know how many there are now, but we were really early on. But the other places that are being seen, I'm not really sure how they're distributing them. They do have to be careful because they're brand new builds. These technological marvels are having issues.
I heard that there was a recall, right?
I'm not going to sit here and try to defend the whole Cybertruck thing. However, I will say this. Everything is blown out of proportion. So, and I say I'm not going to defend it because if I do, then there's all those naysayers out there, even though I'd love to all day long. But
the great part is that you're on a podcast where our listeners are just here to grow and develop. So you don't worry about them. Thank you very much for saying that. I do appreciate it. But just little things like the roller ball, on the steering wheel that you turn the volume up and down, it goes down but not up. Oh, okay. So
now,
like little
things like that. But the truck it's just amazing. And so. Anyway, I'm not sure where I was going with that.
No worries. I have some curiosity, and I don't need you to divulge exactly what you paid for it. My curiosity is more like, what's the price range on a Cybertruck?
The foundation,
Give me the range.
Between 69 and 100.
Okay.
So
they're not that bad.
Yeah,
I thought they were way even higher. My goodness,
they can be. The Cyber Beast, which has 3 motors.
Right.
Yeah,
because I know the Model S is like 120, right? The Model S, no,
that's down to I think that's 79.
Oh, okay, but it used to be.
I think it just went. Yes.
Okay,
yes.
So it used to be.
And then there used to be the ludicrous model. Oh, there is the Plaid.
Okay, right.
The Plaid has 3.
Okay.
That's right around 100,000.
But they are affordable in a way.
Well, gosh, cars have gone up. I remember back in the day, a $30,000 car was like expensive.
Right.
And now it's like to spend spend $70,000 on a car, and people just don't blink.
I mean, a Honda Accord is up there. So.
Yeah, it's really crazy.
I do have a question for you, and I'm phrasing this intentionally like this so that we don't go off the rails. But this has to do with adversity. So. In the business that you're in the EV business, there is a lot of adversity. On the other side, obviously you're fighting for clean air, and then others, they're looking at it differently. And you have the grid issue, you have the cobalt mining issues, and all these. I'm not asking you to get into defending or speaking on those issues at all. My question has to do with how do you deal with adversity? How do you deal with things like that? Because I'm sure you have probably been met with some adversity in what you do. So my curiosity is, as a leader of an organization who is firmly planted in her beliefs and in her mission for clean air and everything that you believe in, how do you deal with that adversity and continue to move forward with your mission?
That's a really good question. It kind of depends on the energy. If it's a person, an individual that I'm talking to, it depends on the energy that's given. If they have bad energy, I tend to kind of come out scratching at times. But like there was this one family at the New York Auto Show. It was a woman and her 4 teenage daughters. And she said, I took back my Tesla Model S because it ran out of battery and I was stuck. And I couldn't do it. It just wouldn't work. This is a stupid technology. She was just going on. And she was from a region where they're a little bit sharp anyway. So I was like, okay. So one of my guys was standing over there and he tried to go to defend the technology. I didn't say anything to him. And then the next day I said, hey, Dave, let's talk about that woman you spoke to last night. And he says, well, I know. I was just trying to explain to her that she should have listened to the car. There was a charger right there, like miles ahead. She had gone to the point of no return where she couldn't turn around. She had to be towed. And I said, I was trying to tell her the car could have told her that. And next time I go, well, listen, before you do that, think about how she must have felt. She was a woman with 4 teenage daughters at night where her car had broken down. What is she going to do? Maybe you should have related, said, that must have been really hard for you. Now, I sound like a psychologist, don't mean to be, but literally relate to her. She was angry and felt let down and disappointed. I said, maybe if you had handled it that way, then you could have gotten those points in to help her understand the technology. So that's part of the education. That's part of the things we want to teach people. And it happens every day. So those are the types of things when I go on a one-on-one for the adversity side. When it's a bigger mission, I usually won't play because I am one person. My company is a little company that there's a bigger fight. There are climate groups out there that can do that have the money, they get the funding. I don't chase that money. I don't know if I'm going to make much of a difference in that way. For the Electric Vehicle Association, we have a policy committee. We have folks that stand at the podium and they try to get bills passed. That's great. I'm glad they're doing the good fight there. For me, I want that focus to be to the individuals because I really believe that that's bodies and seats. Butts and seats are what people call it. I like to call it bodies and seats. Those are the ones that really are going to be buying the cars. And they won't buy the cars if they don't get it. If you buy an electric vehicle without having an education, it's going to be a terrible experience. I can almost guarantee it. I just recently developed a thing called the EV Essentials. It's a little teeny 6-inch booklet of 8 pages that has like the top 5 questions. How long does it take to charge? How far can you go? How long does the battery last? Just the typical things. I can in 5 minutes tell somebody what they need to know for them to go, I'm going to buy an electric car now. So that's where I want to be. Yeah. So for the adversity is, I'm not one to go fight that fight, even though I do believe it. I just think that there's bigger people out there that have more resources than I do. I want to talk to the individual and go through the public-facing side. I think both. You have to have both.
Well, I think what we're picking up from here is trusting your industry and leaning on the people that are willing to fight the fights. And I think it's like choosing your battles.
Right.
And in entrepreneurship and in leadership, that's truly what it is. It's figuring out what's worth my time and energy right now.
And where it can be most effective.
Exactly.
Can I be effective over there? I don't think so.
Right.
I can be more effective here. Knowing what people need to hear, the small amount of information that you really need. I don't care about battery chemistry. I don't really care about, of the 7,000 cells out there, if 3 of them go, does it defrag? What does it do? I don't really care about that. And when people ask, if I get in my car in the right seat and I let them drive, they start wanting to talk about battery chemistry. I go, I'm an owner. I go, if you want that, you call the automaker. Otherwise, I can tell you how you get to grandma's house who lives 350 miles away.
And I think the other important part for everybody who's listening to understand too is, in terms of dealing with adversity, is empathizing with the people. And I think that you said it from the one-to-one level, but I think just even on the public level, there's a way to empathize and say, hey, I appreciate your concerns on X, Y, and Z issues. here's what I'm doing, and here's our focus and our attention. But it's I think the thing that we get lost in is not acknowledging others.
Right.
And that's where that defensiveness and that argumentative comes in, is that they want to be heard. And I mean, like I think about Tenley, my 7-year-old. Like, Tenley will repeat something 15 times until, dad. I thought that Stewie thing of like mom was a joke
mother, mommy.
until I had kids. And it's like, because until you acknowledge them, they're not going to stop.
Yeah.
But once you do and just go, yes, or okay, honey, or give me a
And
minute.
we go, okay.
Once you have empathize. So I love that, of just in terms of dealing with adversity, is empathizing, putting yourself in their role and understanding, how would I want to be spoken to or dealt with in this situation? I think that's a really, really great advice. One of the things I like to learn about someone like yourself is a driving phrase or a mantra. And so what is maybe a mantra that is new to you today, or one that you've lived by your entire life that, stands firm in your life today?
You really put me on the spot with that one. That'd be a good one to think about.
Or a thought or an idea or a philosophy.
I think it's just one thing I've always done, and I always try to teach the people that work for me or my kids or my family, is that the people that you deal with, they just want your authentic self. And being authentic shows. The energy that you give out, they know if it's real or fake, and make sure it's not fake. So be authentic, be genuine, put yourself in someone else's shoes. I've told my kids forever, there's no one on this planet you will not like if you accept them for what they can give. If you watch the series Friends and you look at all the characters, they all had something quirky, right? Monica was OCD and Phoebe was a ditz and Joey, they all had their thing, right? Yeah. But they all loved each other. And so when my kids came home from school and would tell me something about somebody at school, I say, which one are they on Friends? Because you will love them anyway. Even with their bad qualities, everyone's got something. I got things people don't like. But you have to accept them for what they are. So be genuine, because people buy from people and not a business. Whenever we made a mistake or make mistakes in my company, I say, don't you dare blame it on the company. You take responsibility, because they will forgive you. They won't forgive the company. We had big trucks, and every time I'd come in, one of the windows with the mirrors were broken off. Big trucks, like 26-footers. And I'd say, guys, another mirror? Oh, yeah. We were laughing on who's going to knock it off next week. I go, do you realize that money is coming out of my pocket? No, because they just thought of the company. So you have to put into that, which gets into being genuine and people wanting to buy from you and have that relationship with you. So it's all about the respect, relationship, caring.
And it brings it back, like you said, bringing it back to the family. It's been so cool to have you on. It was serendipitous for us to meet.
Wasn't it, though?
And for Jonathan to be able to communicate with me, to be able to get us together, because you've been doing like the East Coast tour up and down the coast with everyone, and you're kind of wrapping it up today, I think, right? Going down the Pearl River, which is really, really cool. I would love for you to share any ways that people can get a hold of you, get in touch with you, whether through your website or social media handles. Of course, it'll be in the show notes, but just for our audio listeners, if you have any places.
Just hello@evoptions.net. That will get right to me.
Hello@evoptions.net.
Hello@evoptions.net. That's the best way. I have to be honest, we are a B2B company, business to business, so we don't really have a big social following. Not to mention, we're really busy. I know we need that. We've hired a social media person, but I haven't had a chance. We did have, we stopped through Kansas City at Evergy Energy to let them drive the Cybertrucks, and she posted something on LinkedIn. Terri Kirsch and her team stopped by, and it just got, I can't say it went viral, but it certainly got a lot of attention. I go, I think we probably need to do this more. But we're certainly not hurting for business, so.
That is so cool to hear, because I put a big push and emphasis on social media to help with business.
Right.
So for you to not even need it quite yet is pretty cool. And whatever it is, but that's awesome.
Right.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So like I said, it's been awesome having you on. I also want to share about my fast that I'm doing with everybody who's listening. I'm doing a 72-hour fast on May 15th, and that's to raise awareness and money for the people in Haiti. We're doing it through the Forgotten Children of Haiti. which is going to help the agricultural program through the St. Luke Foundation in Haiti. So if anybody wants to check it out or learn more about how they can help, just visit my website, michaelespositoinc.com.
Wonderful.
That's all I have for everyone. I want to thank you so much for coming on
Yay.
today.
Thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you for listening to the Michael Esposito Show. For show notes, video clips, and more episodes, go to michaelespositoinc.com/podcast. Thank you again to our sponsor, Den 10 Insurance Services, helping businesses get the right insurance for all their insurance needs. Visit den10.io to get a quote. That's DENTEN.io. And remember, when you buy an insurance policy from Den 10, you're giving back on a global scale. This episode was produced by Uncle Mike at the iHeart Studios in Poughkeepsie. Special thanks to Lara Rodrian for the opportunity and my team at Michael Esposito Inc.